hopefully even maybe do something that could reduce it, but without the project, we can't do that, so. Sure.
Okay. So I want to come back to this question of the choke points.
Yeah.
And you made a comment earlier that a couple of people here, I think, are challenged, but I really want to take that up. That you indicated that it appears that this project will actually improve, I think you said, the flow of traffic.
On 85.
And what I'm trying to get at is that they all get stuck. All you're doing is, if there's already a bottleneck at 85 and 280, you're simply building up behind the bottleneck. All kinds of studies show that if you cram more things in on the back end of a bottleneck, this makes the bottleneck worse, not better. So we talk about how specifically this would improve traffic through the choke point. Can you answer that question?
Yeah, so what the speaker was talking about is, I presume you're talking about northbound 85 to 280.
Yeah.
Right, so that's a difficult place right now because of the traffic that's trying to merge out of 85 back and forth to 280. This project is focusing on 85 northbound. What we're trying to do in that specific location, the express lane does continue all the way up into Mountain View. It drops from a 2 to a 1 because we have vehicles that are now exiting that express lane facility to go either southbound on 280 or northbound on 280. That's where the problem is the choke points on the 280 freeway going both directions.
Well, I understand. My point
So,
is, aren't you exacerbating that? That's what I'm
no, we're not. We're not doing that. We're not exacerbating it because we're actually helping the northbound 85 commute. Unfortunately, we're not solving all the problems on 280. That takes a much bigger and different type of project that's actually working and doing improvements on building flyover ramps or braided ramps and improvements on 280. To solve the 280 problem, you got to do a bunch of work on 280.
So I'm not talking about 280 at all. It's just only 85.
Well, the cause of Eddie, what you're talking about is those ramps back and forth between 280 and 85, and the people trying to get over to go to those
85
freeways.
itself backs up because of that.
That's
There's
correct.
so much coming in, this traffic coming from
And it
280.
backs up because of the interchange of 280 and all the movements back and forth.
Like, here's what I was saying, sir.
Yeah.
It's traffic merging from 280 onto 85, merging from Stevens Creek onto 85 that's causing that.
Correct,
We're
that's
not talking about 280 itself.
right. So what we are doing with this project is focusing on 85. It does not solve all the 280 project issues. What we're trying to do on this one is actually make sure that the northbound commute 85 is better. And what we're trying to do, we're adding an auxiliary lane on the northbound portion of this between Stevens Creek and 280 in that area to help that merging and weaving. We've got another project over on Foothill 280 that we want to do to help some of that merging off of 280 into the Foothill Expressway, but it does not solve many of the other problems. It's just, it's beyond the scope of this project.
Can you just show, sir, if you don't mind, how it's improved 85? I'd love that.
Yeah, we could, I mean,
It's
it's, because it's allowing more vehicles and people throughput on northbound 85 with this express lane and pricing. Those are the folks that are staying on 85. If you're trying to get off and go to 280, it's a difficult situation.
No. If I'm getting on 85 for the sole purpose of going to Mountain View to 101, so I am going to stay on from the point where I get on, which is either Winchester or over here in Saratoga. I'm not exiting until after those choke points. So there's more traffic flowing with me now because of the commuter lane also available for more cars, and we still end up not being able to go further north.
The lane continues further north. It continues all the way to 101. If I didn't make that clear, it goes all the way to 101. It converts the existing carpool lane. So this does not end at 280. It goes all the way and merges into 101 in Mountain View. Was that unclear? If I was, sorry about that. Right. So there's a vehicle lane. There's a vehicle reduction when you get to 280 that people are wanting to get out and go on 280 either way or get off at Stevens Creek. So there's enough cars exiting to get down to one lane works.
Actually, a lot of people coming on the 280 and onto this too.
Right, but if you remember what we're doing here is there are some limited entry and exit points, and those are designed so that it keeps it free flowing. And then the price keeps it free flowing as well.
The number of lanes on the north of 280
Yes, we've got a limitation in just the space available to be able to do that.
So you still have the same funnel on the same bottleneck, you have the same number of cars that are feeding into 3 lanes, regardless of what you've done in front, you're still
Right.
gonna have that choke point because it's the same size and the same number of vehicles.
Right,
I
but
think
what,
that's the point.
but what we're doing is we're limiting some of the entry-exit points so that what we'll be able to do is control how many cars are trying to weave into a certain
But what
place.
you've now done is made the commute for some families, particularly for those who enter on and off Saratoga Avenue, who now have to sit in 2 miles of traffic to De Anza before they can even enter that lane and access that point. But it's
That's
still
correct.
the same number of cars when you finally get there. You're still gonna have the same number of cars going through those 3 lanes. So you're still gonna have a choke point, regardless of what you're doing to maneuver cars on and off of 280. It's still the same number of cars that need to go through that same lane.
There's the additional lane until you get to 280, then we have an auxiliary lane that allows that weaving to occur, but then the express lane does continue all the way up
But
to
I mean,
101.
we have a carpool express lane now. I mean, it's not any different. You're gonna have 3
The-
lanes, one of them an express lane.
With-
You're changing the on points and off points.
Which makes a lot of difference in how it
People
works.
get that lane once they get there, but getting there will take people's commute a lot longer to get in that lane. They may make up a little time once they get in the lane, but the number of cars on that part of the freeway is not changing. It's the same space for the same number of vehicles, and I think that's the point that people are making.
Yeah, in our analysis, we've looked at it very closely, and it does say that it will help that northbound 85 commute. And I've said before that we control limit the ingress and egress and the pricing of that, and we're actually continuing those express lanes into Mountain View, that it'll help that northbound 85 commute.
So one last one, is can you make that analysis public? I think that's why you're having.
It is, the traffic reports are about 400 pages, so and that's available, we'll make that available.
I think in part, we're running into a couple of dangers here. Tell me if I need the mic. One is, this should be a chance for some of us to speak and not exclusively a debate with VTA. There's an old, I have no interest in talking with VTA. I've seen enough and heard enough. 2.5 years, we heard nothing about this. With all of the controversy and problems in our town, Saratoga was a quiet place until '85. 1/3 of the residences in Saratoga have 24/7 freeway noise. It is not at acceptable levels. You could hear what this fellow says, but the city just went out for its general plan and did its own independent measurements. And those measurements of the current noise on 85 exceed state standards and exceed national standards. So, yeah, VTA will tell you it'll be fine, it'll be 1 to 3 decibels. I think there's also a place in their literature where it describes the Easter Bunny. Because that's what we went through last time with 85. So pardon me if I'm a little skeptical. There are other issues here. There's an old political saying that when somebody asks you if you want scrambled eggs, or if you'd rather have toast, or if it's time for an omelet, you've got to be very careful to step back and make sure that it's breakfast time, because none of those are appropriate if it's dinner. The danger of getting down in the weeds and having an argument about will northbound on 85 at 280, forgetting Almaden Expressway, forgetting 17, all of those, we can get lost in those arguments and pretend that's what's in front of us. It isn't. It's a project that's deplorable. It hasn't worked. You can't get on or off those lanes from a mile either side of Saratoga. You can do it illegally. Think what'll happen with an accident in one of the interior lanes. Nobody's discussing air pollution. Nobody is discussing the landscaping that we were promised that's in the last contract. Nobody's discussing the fact that there was active discussion, according to somebody I know well who was there, and I have this secondhand, so bear with me, that there was active discussion when the last 85 agreements were made, that the agreements would all be in a document signed by SEC Transit Authority, Santa Clara County Transit Authority, because everybody in the know knew that was going to go away once the bonds were passed, which meant in 2 years that agency wouldn't exist. And VTA could say, that's not our agreement, we're not bound by it. And they actively took that strategy, knowing that the cities would probably overlook the fact that the agency wasn't going to survive. The first thing we should do, the very first thing, is tell everybody, CalTrans and VTA, go away and come back when you have a plan for the bottlenecks. Then we'll look at this project, and if it looks as bad as it does now, some of us like me will still think it's a terrible project and oppose it. But to get lost in the details of, well, where would you put a light rail station? I'm not proposing light rail, it's in the agreements. It's not on me to solve this. I can't, if the funding isn't there, well then wait till it is there to do what's needed. As Pat said, and others of you have said very eloquently, why pour more cars into something that's bottlenecked at each end? Why increase the noise for Saratoga? The families, the most dense areas of Saratoga are those along our freeway corridor. And some of you in here know that. And to increase that noise, and by the way, to go through a couple of years of construction, get to have all that dust and stuff for a couple of years, it ought to be a very clear-cut set of objectives that most of this community is in favor of. I was at the city council meeting where this was discussed, and I sure wish our council members had told us a year ago, when those who were VTA reps knew this project was coming, and knew how controversial 85 has always been in this community, but they didn't. And at the meeting,
Yes, they did.
what, a couple of weeks ago,
Not much.
I have a mic right now, Chuck. It's okay, it's not a council meeting where you can interrupt me. So,
It's a public meeting.
we'll get back to that, and you can do that again. Look, there's no reason. What I saw was 90% of the people who came out to that meeting were adamantly opposed to this project. Our energy should not be turned to, well, how would the flyover work at such and such a location? Our energy should be turned to asking our city council representatives and our city government and everybody else we can get a hold of, would you please defend our city? You know, the first rule of city government is public safety and defending the community. It's not just against crime. It's against things like noise pollution and air pollution, dividing the city in two, which the freeway's done. Our effort should be, how can we mobilize and stop this project, which is on its face blatantly unsupportable at many, many levels. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Cindy Bittner has been waiting a long time to speak.
Well, I really can't add a lot to what Jeff just said, but one of the questions that I had, which all of a sudden has escaped me, besides the choke points from, okay, I agree, Mr. Roadshow, every day, I don't know how many of the rest of you do, but I have heard that there have been nothing but complaints about this, a similar arrangement over in the East Bay, that has done nothing to abate the congestion, and that now the HOV lane is just as congested and moving as slowly as the other lanes.
On the contrary, it's actually been wildly successful in alleviating congestion and reducing travel time for the folks both in the express lane. Well, I think what this speaker was talking about was the 237 and maybe the 680 as well. The 237, 880 express lanes is fairly small, but it's actually done a great job of reducing travel times for users of the facility up to 15 minutes in the peak period commute times. What you may be referring to is it's actually gotten so popular with the motorists and users of it that it's actually causing backup further up the freeway, which is then cascading into the express lane. So we actually have to raise the price or actually turn it off to allow only carpools in. So on the contrary, it's actually been extremely successful for both travel time savings and revenue production for that. So it's been a very good project, as well as the 680, as well as about the other 20 facilities that are around the country, all very successful, very popular in every instance. Motorists and users want them expanded and extended.
There's a gentleman in the back who's been.
I just have
Sure.
a general question too. I don't know your name. My name's Bernie. What is your name? Yes.
Jeff Schwartz.
Okay, to Jeff's point, right? Let's take this up a level. I really want to understand what is your desire today? Because let me ask a question.
Sure.
It seems as if the folks are asking some very good questions and they're making some very good points. And what I hear from you is not really seeking to understand, but seeking to explain and validate the proposal that you guys have put together. And I think part of the frustration is that you've got folks here, you've got Chuck over there, who really are saying, you know what? We didn't know a lot of what you're proposing here, some of us until tonight. And so the question I have for you, and please answer the question directly, because you did not answer, I think it was Jeff's question earlier when he said, do you know what's in the document? You didn't answer the question. So please answer my question, what are you here for? Just to help us? Because maybe he's right. The discussion is amongst us, and it's for you to listen because you don't really want to hear what we have to say. You want to explain what you have to sell.
Well, I'm not sure if I missed part of the question that Jeff was asking. I can certainly try to re-answer that.
I think he asked specifically, do you understand what's in the agreement between the city and BTN?
Yeah, I think one of the other speakers was reading that, and that's what we have seen before too. Is that the?
So you understand what's in
Yeah,
there?
we read that. What we believe is we're complying with that, with what we're planning was running buses. So if that's not acceptable, then I guess we will have to then go to cities and talk about what that, if that is or is not acceptable.
Okay, and then to my question, what is your desire here? Is your desire to really understand what folks have to say?
Yeah, we were asked.
And filter that into your grid and maybe adjust?
Certainly. So we were asked to come to the meeting to try to answer questions and provide another forum to answer questions about the project. It's currently in an environmental review process. So anybody that wants to provide formal comments into that process, they could do so. We can provide that portal of how to do so. But what we're trying to do tonight is at least try to answer some of the questions that are still out there. We did have a couple of public meetings on this before. We're more than happy to do more of those if there's additional questions that we need to be answered. But today was to answer questions and see if there's any other input that we need to get. We're not recording this, so if you need to get it into the formal process, we'll give you that portal of how to do so.
John, can
Yep.
you tell everybody, Howard Miller, for those who haven't been, you have till the end of this month, which is just a few days, to provide feedback to BTA, and hopefully you will give the email address. Speaking here tonight is wonderful, but seriously, as John points out, they're not recording this. I don't see a lot of people taking notes.
We are.
Please, but BTA is not.
There's a
So
formal
please-
process
yeah,
that
please
Howard's
send-
talking about.
Please send, and everybody who's heard email from me, first thing I say, please send your emails to BTA. You have only till the end of this month. This is not a sit on your hands time, figure you send it here, or somebody else is gonna send it. So please, John, if you can give people the email address either at the end of the month.
Yeah, we'll try to do that before the.
Can I ask Susan, she's waited a long time.
Well, everybody's kind of concentrating on decibel levels. I like a study as to what it's going to do to our air pollution. Now, you can't compare an express buses with light rail. And that was about the only good thing about 85 going in, was that the reserving of that median for light rail and cutting down on the stuff that's being spewed into our atmosphere. Now, nobody has to be a genius to know about what's going on with the increase in carbon. And here a public agency is talking about adding express buses instead of light rail. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
We've done it. Those express buses are hybrids, to let you know. But we've done, as many of the technical analysis was air quality, where we reviewed all of the potential from air quality increases due to the project and found that it is not a significant increase by any means. And so that also was available if you'd like to see that too.
Yeah, so far large trucks have been prohibited from entering 85. That will change.
Will not change. Well, I'm sorry, the question was, will the truck ban change with regard to this project? And the answer is no, it will not change.
Why should we believe you?
Doesn't make any difference, it will not change.
I have a question about these two maps. I see this, I'm not unclear what an auxiliary lane is. It looks like it's a yellow lane. I notice there's several places on 85 on this map that show auxiliary lanes, I assume, because that's the yellow. On this map over here, I only see one place where it shows an auxiliary map, and that's the blue area. And that is from like South Piazza Boulevard and Cupertino up to almost to Stevens Creek. Why are these different, and what is an auxiliary lane?
An auxiliary lane is a lane that doesn't go past an off-ramp. So it is an assistance to the merging and exit and entrance onto a freeway, but it doesn't go past that on or off ramp. So it's an additional lane, but it doesn't continue
So
for
we'll
beyond
widen
that.
the freeway for a portion.
A portion of it to allow another lane to have vehicles have more room and space to actually enter or exit these lanes, and
Then
that's
why
what
is there
that
a
is.
difference between this map over here and this one?
I'll have to ask, what's the difference with this, the smaller map?
On the smaller map, the main point was to show what a double lane system is. That map has all the details.
Oh, but
This-
all-
the
but
bigger one
the
is the
key-
detail.
The key does indicate on there auxiliary
Yeah,
lanes
so
on there, so
one
I'm
option
confused
is
why
the
that is an
portion.
incomplete map then, because that's not
The,
correct.
the
Is that
question was, what's the difference between the two maps? This is the one that has all the detail, and that was a higher level that just shows where the
Well,
proposed
yeah, but
double
it
lane
says-
and the
but
auxiliary
in
lanes
the
are.
legend, they're also, it mentions in the legend, it will indicate where auxiliary lanes are, so I'm surprised it doesn't show them.
I believe there is one shown over there.
Only
Yeah.
one, but
Yeah.
there are many more around this, and that's why I was confused why the two maps don't agree.
They do, but we can point it out to you if you want afterwards.
People will have a chance to see the maps. We'll keep them here after we're through for a short time, but we have to leave this room by 9:30. Rob, you were asking.
Yes?
You